Catherine West.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I must agree with the member for South Dorset in one regard, which is this isn't just a small tax rise we're talking today, this is a whopper. This takes us back to 1950s levels of taxation. And one area which we know is particularly fragile at the moment is the recovery post-pandemic. In my constituency, and the House of Commons has usefully sent me through the statistics today of jobless figures, and I'm sure many other members in the House have got theirs. 6,430 people jobless in Hornsey and Wood Green, 4,000 more than pre-pandemic. So the idea that this recovery is secure is for the birds. Job retention following the furlough finishing up is a real question mark in my constituency, because we know that in the service-based economy it is yet to take off in a secure way. What is on the minds of my constituents in Hornsey and Wood Green? Number one, the likely cut of £20 per week for those on universal credit, which affects 12,970 households in Hornsey and Wood Green. Number two, the two-child limit. If you have a large family in Hornsey and Wood Green and you do rely on the benefit system for some assistance, of course, only the first two children get any help. I, of course, as a third child, I don't know how many members in this House are third or fourth or fifth children, but think about it, your parents would have been cursing you because you were born the third or the fourth. The next thing on my members, the Hornsey and Wood Green constituents' minds, energy bills about to go up, and I'm sure the Treasury Minister has done his own analysis of the fact that we didn't have a very windy summer, which means the renewables haven't done as much as we'd hoped, and gas, we will be still reliant on gas and even coal, which we shouldn't be because of COP26 and all our commitments there, but due to those features, we will see an increase in our energy bills this winter. The next thing on my constituents' minds, the potential for higher food costs if they can find the food that they like in the supermarkets due to Brexit and COVID. Of course I would.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving way on that very good point. Does she agree with me that it is fundamentally unfair for hard-working younger people who face dramatically increased costs of living, high rental costs, to have to pay more at this time through this proposal than their landlords who indeed are not taxed?
The member for Reading makes an excellent point and is always talking about the impact of these sorts of measures on those who rent, because we know that this is going to be very difficult for them, and yet for their landlords it's probably not going to be nearly as hard. The next thing on my constituents' mind is the likelihood of a council tax increase, and we know under Tory governments council tax shoots up. Now, why is that? That's because when you starve local government, council tax has to increase in order to cover local issues. And in this case, not only will the lowest paid be paying for the whopper of a tax increase, biggest since the 1950s, they will also be faced with rising council tax bills and the precept for social care, because today's measures do not actually adequately look after the local government aspect of social care. And I declare an interest as a Vice Chair of the Local Government Association as a former council leader. And while I'm here, just wanted to make two very brief points, Mr Deputy Speaker. The first is...
I'm just very careful on Levy's interesting speech and the list of what the constituents are speaking to you about. One of the top issues my constituents speak to me is about dealing with social care and making sure our older people or people who need social care have adequate facilities and funding. Yeah, I haven't really heard about the Labour's plan to deal with this very important issue.
Well, I'm sure the Shadow Minister, when she stands up, will be very fulsome in the detail on Labour's proposals. But let me return to my point, Mr Deputy Speaker, and that is relating to the important elements of reform that we do need in local government. And they are, number one, for all care workers to be paid the living wage. And by that, I don't mean Mr Osborne's fake living wage, which was the national minimum wage. I mean the living wage, which is in London now over £10 an hour, but across the country in other parts still languishing at under £9. and this must be urgently addressed. We need to look at those wages, not least because the member for Liverpool Riverside made the important point that we are losing so many carers from the care sector. In addition to the fact that the government is mandating vaccinations, then there's a big question mark over whether that is the correct strategy for those workers and whether that is just another of the shopping trolley policy areas of this government. Maybe they'll do another U-turn tomorrow and we'll see that gone. We don't know. The other very important element is training. Many experts have told me about the importance of training within the care sector, within the NHS, but especially in those very dispersed jobs where people are actually working in the homes of the people that they care for or who are working in our care homes, and the desperate need for training and a proper career path in order to encourage people into the sector. And even the promise on the apprenticeship opportunities for young people to come into the care sector have been deeply disappointing if you look at the figures. There's very few on the Kickstart program who have actually ended up in the care sector, which desperately needs young people or people who are re-entering the workforce, but to be on a proper training path and to be in a proper career so that we have high-quality care. Mr Deputy Speaker, I do hope that members will search their consciences for how those leaflets are going to look at that general election which is coming up. We will be brutal about this because it is attacking those who are least able to afford that. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.